Back there were female ostriches because they are much lighter in color. They have kind of a light gray to light brown color to their feathers, while the males will typically have jet black feathers with white tips to their wings. Caribou means welcome, so welcome aboard, everyone. Make sure you slide all the way over to the left-hand side and make as much room as you can for everyone to join us here today on our safari.
Safari time. We out here on the safari time. You know who it is. Explore with me. Let's go for this ride. It's safari time. Keeping it magic. I got my Mickey safari shorts on. See what I'm saying? See what I'm saying? Safari time. You know what to do. Push all them buttons. Push all them buttons. Like, subscribe, tell a friend to tell a friend. You already know. We out here. Time to go. Let's go.
Down go, my friends. Welcome aboard Kilimanjaro Safaris. My name is Nick, and I'm going to be your safari guide here today as we make our way through the Harambe Wildlife Reserve. Before we head down into the reserve, there are just a few safety things for us to go over together. First of all, please make sure that everyone remains seated at all times throughout the duration of our journey. Make sure you keep all your hands, arms, feet, and legs inside the vehicle at all times. And if you have any phones, cameras, or any other loose items or valuables, I recommend keeping a very tight grip on them, as the road can get quite bumpy, and if anything happens to go overboard, we will not be able to stop to retrieve it at any time.
Alright, looks like we're going to get back there to head right to the reserve.
Now with all of that said and out of the way, we're going to wait here for just a second to get the final all clear from the warden before heading into the reserve. First area we're going to head into here is known as the Little Ituri Forest. Many of the animals in the Little Ituri Forest rely on camouflage to help them stay safe and hidden from any predators. So be sure to keep an eagle eye out for any darker colors or stripes that will help those animals to blend into their environments. Now while we sit here, I'd also like to point out that animal spotting guide located above your heads. We will try our best to see as many animals as we can here today, but we are not guaranteed to see every single animal up there. So just make sure you're keeping your eyes peeled, like I said. Make sure you keep a close eye on your spotting guide, and we'll be able to find as many as we can. Looks like over here to our right-hand side, we can see our first animal of the reserve, and that is known as an okapi. Now, don't let these striped legs of the okapi fool you, as they are not related to these zebras at all. In fact, they are the closest living relatives to the giraffes. We know this because both the okapi and the giraffe have similar skull structures, and they both have an 18-inch long prehensile tongue. Prehensile means finger-like, so if you can do it with your finger, they can basically do it with their tongues. And that comes in quite handy for stripping leaves and vegetation off of branches. Over to our left-hand side, those rust-colored antelopes are known as the bongos. The bongos have horns that can get to be about 3 feet in length, and they're commonly referred to as the ghosts of the forest because of how hard they are to spot in the wild. Now, I'm not sure if any of you guys caught it, but over there on our right-hand side as well, there was a smaller animal that was kind of dark in color with a yellow crest on its back. That animal is known as a yellow-backed diker. The yellow-backed diker is a pretty rare animal to see out here, as it gets its name diker from the word diver. So they will dive into the bushes anytime that they are a little scared or threatened. So it's pretty rare to see them out of those bushes. Now here on our left-hand side, you can see a black rhino. That black rhino can get up to about 3,000 pounds in weight and charges speeds of around 35 miles an hour. Just like I mentioned with the okapi's prehensile tongue, the black rhino has a prehensile upper lip that he'll use to help bring his food a little closer to his mouth. Back over to the right-hand side, those lighter-colored antelopes laying down up there on that hill are known as the greater kudu. You can tell those are female greater kudu because they do not have any horns. Meanwhile, the males have horns that can get to be about 6 feet in length. may have noticed that both the bongo and the greater kudu have some lighter colored vertical stripes running down their backs. Those stripes are part of the camouflaging techniques I mentioned earlier, as they are meant to mimic the rays of sunlight that peek in through the gaps in the trees up above those animals. As we make our way out of the Little Ituri Forest, we're going to head down into the Safi River. Like that name suggests, there may be a few aquatic animals in store for us up here, so be sure to keep your eyes peeled to the water this time. Over to our right-hand side, looks like outside of the water, there is a Nile hippo back there, as well as a pod of pink-backed pelicans. The pink-backed pelicans get their name from the pink coloration that appears on their back during their mating season. That pink coloration can also spread to their pouches, their bills, and their facial skin, almost making it look as if they're blushing. Those pelicans have a wingspan of about 7 to 9 feet, and to put that into perspective for you, that is about the same width as the canopy of the truck up above your heads. Now don't worry if you didn't get a good view of the hippo on the right-hand side, as now it looks like there's one over on the left-hand side. You'll notice that these Nile hippos have their eyes, ears, and nose all located on the top side of their heads. That is an evolutionary feature of the hippos that allows them to remain almost completely submerged throughout the day, helping them to stay cool in the water and out of the hot African sun. Just make sure you keep all of our hands, arms, feet, and legs inside the vehicle at all times, my friends. When these hippos decide to completely submerge themselves, they are able to hold their breath for around 8 minutes. They can even close off their nostrils and fold back their ears in order to keep the water out. Also coming up here on the left-hand side, there are some Nile crocodiles down there. Those Nile crocodiles are the largest crocodilians in all of Africa. They weigh around 500 pounds each and measure in anywhere from 16 to 20 feet in length. While the Nile crocodile has one of the strongest white forces in all of Africa, they can be surprisingly gentle with their jaws as well. The mother Nile crocodile will even roll the eggs of her young around in her mouth when it's time for her babies to hatch, to help aid those babies in hatching by softening up their eggshells. Once the baby crocodiles are hatched out of their eggshells, their mother will continue to carry them around in her mouth for a little bit to help keep them safe and protected from any predators. Over to the right-hand side of the truck, this large tree with a thick trunk is known as the baobab tree. The baobab tree also gets the nickname the upside-down tree, because as you can tell, those branches kind of look like roots sticking straight up out of the ground. Winding our way down this hill, we will now be entering the West Savannah. So now's the time I'd like to return to that animal spotting guide, as the West Savannah is home to many well-known African animals. There may still be a few that you've never seen before or never heard of. So with that animal spotting guide on your side, you'll become an expert animal spotter in no time. As we make our way into the Savannah, you'll notice it's a lot wider and more open, and there's a lot less trees and bushes to hide out in than in the Little Ituri Forest. That's because those animals in the Ituri Forest, like I mentioned, rely on camouflage to help keep them safe and hidden, while the animals here in the Savannah are more reliant on speed and agility to help them stay safe from predators. It looks like off to our right-hand side we can see quite a large number of animals here, so I'll go ahead and try to rattle them all off before we talk about each one. Closer to the truck here, these darker antelopes with the large hooked horns are known as the sable antelopes. The smaller antelopes in the back with the dark stripe down their side are known as the springboks. Those very tall animals there, they don't really need much introduction, but those are the Maasai giraffes. And then there's a larger antelope over there that's kind of lighter in color, and that is the common eland. Now the sable antelopes are a bit of an outlier from what I said earlier with speed and agility, helping them to keep safe, as unlike other antelope species, they will not run from danger. Instead, they will stand their ground and show off their large hooked horns to try and either scare off or fight off any threats. While those springbok back there get their name because when they are threatened or in danger, they will spring into the air in a method known as pronking, in which they can leap up to 6 feet in the air and 13 feet across in a single bound to help them escape any predators. Despite their small stature, these springbok are among the top 10 fastest land animals in the entire world, as they can reach speeds of around 50 to 60 miles an hour. But now coming up on our left-hand side are some of those predators I was mentioning. These are the African painted dogs. The African painted dogs get their name from the spot patterns on their back that kind of look like paint splotches. Those spot patterns are unique to each individual painted dog, and members of the same pack are able to identify each other from great distances thanks to those spot patterns. The African painted dogs are the most successful hunters in all of Africa, and that's all thanks to the large numbers in which they hunt and their excellent communication skills. Looking over to the right hand side of the truck, we can see a better view of that common eland over there. That's the one with the straighter horns under that tree. Now, that common eland is the largest antelope on the entire reserve. They can weigh around 2,000 pounds each, but they don't let that weight keep them down, quite literally, as they are able to leap an astounding 6 to 8 feet straight up in the air from a standing position, despite their heavy weight. Looks like we might be moving a little bit slower right now due to some animals up ahead. But hopefully those animals don't go too far, so we're able to get a good look at them as well. This is their reserve, so we'll be sure to be respectful to all of them and move at their pace. You may be wondering to yourself, Safari Guide Nick, what are all of these piles of dirt all around the sides of the truck right now? These are the termite mounds. The termite mounds are made up of saliva, red clay, and dung. And once they are hardened and baked in the hot African sun, they can become as hard as concrete, making them excellent scratching posts for many of the animals that call the Savannah their home. Over to our left-hand side, looks like there is a Hartman's Mountain Zebra here. The Hartman's Mountain Zebra are identifiable because they've got a little flap of blue skin on the underside of their neck known as a dewlap. That dewlap helps them to regulate their body temperature by controlling their blood flow and circulation. And while many people think that zebras are white with black stripes, if you take a close look at their nose, you'll notice that it's black, meaning that they are actually black with white stripes. It looks like you guys are also able to see some of the baby zebras here, which are the newest members of the reserve. There's one baby here on our left-hand side, and it looks like there will be one coming up on our right as well as we make this turn. Now the Maasai giraffes that we passed are identifiable because they've got kind of jagged and irregular edges to their spots, especially when you compare that to the spots of the reticulated giraffe up on your spotting guide. You'll see that the reticulated giraffe spots are a lot cleaner and more geometric in their size, shape, and pattern, while the Maasai giraffe spots are a bit more organic. Here you can get a good look at that baby zebra as well to our left-hand side. And the other babies right here to our right. These baby zebras are born with legs that are just about as long as a full-grown zebra's legs, and that's in order to help them keep up with their herds as they move around the savannah. A herd or group of zebras is known as a dazzle of zebras. That's because as they move around together on the savannah, their stripes will create a dazzling effect in the eyes of their predators, making it harder for them to identify individual zebras. Over here to our right-hand side, these darker antelopes with the shaggier manes are known as the wildebeest. The wildebeest get their name from the Afrikaans term for wild beast, and they are migratory antelopes that will travel in annual migrations known as the Great Migration, in herds of up to 1.5 million wildebeest. The giraffe that we saw back there can get up to about 18 to 20 feet in height, which is about the same height as the length of the crocodiles that we saw in the Safi River. And thanks to their long legs, they can travel a pretty surprising 35 miles an hour over short distances, or about 10 miles an hour over longer distances. Now we mentioned that a group of zebras is known as a dazzle, but a group of giraffes is known as a tower of giraffes, and a group of wildebeest is known as a journey of wildebeest. But don't stop believing, my friends, because we are going to see some more cool animals up ahead, like this African elephant coming up on our right-hand side. That is the largest animal in all of Africa. And then over to our left-hand side, actually, it looks like there are some mandrills, which are the largest monkey species in the world. So right now we are surrounded by giants. We'll take a quick stop here, get a good look at them. Now that is the male mandrill. It's a little lower and closer to the truck, while those are the females up on that hill. The males get up to about 100 pounds in weight, while the females typically only get to be about 25 or 35 pounds in weight. We know they're monkeys because they have tails, unlike their cousins the apes like chimpanzees and gorillas. And the males have very distinctive red and blue facial markings that get even brighter the more excited that they get. They also have 2-inch long canine teeth that they will use for self-defense. But if you see two mandrills baring their teeth to one another, it's not really a threatening gesture, and more of a friendly one. Kind of like when we smile to one another. And one last pretty interesting fact about the mandrills is that they have pouches on the insides of their cheeks that allow them to store up to a stomach's worth of food. While we don't have those same pouches on the insides of our cheeks, we can still learn a thing or two from our cousins, the mandrills. In the same way that they can reuse those pouches to store food in over and over, we can use reusable Tupperware containers, helping us to cut down on our use of single-use plastics, keeping the environment a little safer and a little cleaner for all of our friends like the mandrills and the elephants that we just saw back there. Now, speaking of those elephants, coming up here off to either side of the truck is some red clay. Red clay contains minerals in it that are often not found in the diet of the African elephant. So where there's red clay like this, there's sure to be African elephants like the one we saw back there, trying to get their daily vitamins in. And we can even spot some tusk marks here on the right-hand side in that red clay. Both the male and female African elephants have tusks. They're also pretty well known for that powerful trunk of theirs. That trunk is made up of thousands of muscles, more in fact than every single person on this truck has in their body combined. And it is prehensile, just like the tongue of the okapi and the giraffe and the upper lip of the black rhino. The African elephants have two little prehensile digits on the ends of their trunk that act almost like fingers, helping them to grab things such as food to bring a little closer to their mouth. And if you ever see an elephant that's looking a little dirty or muddy, don't worry, my friends, that's not bad hygiene. It's actually just a really great skincare routine. The African elephants have extremely sensitive skin, so they use that powerful trunk of theirs to fling mud and dirt onto their backs to help create a form of natural sunblock that protects their skin from the sun's rays. If you ever see some elephants flapping their ears quite a bit, that's not just their way of waving hello to you. The elephants have blood vessels located on the back sides of their ears, so when they flap those ears, it allows them to circulate that blood throughout their head and body, lowering their body temperature by up to 15 degrees. Talk about ear conditioning. Coming up on the left-hand side of the truck is a flamboyance of greater flamingos. A flamboyance is what you call a group of flamingos. And the greater flamingos are the largest flamingo species and also the lightest in color. Now, speaking of color, you may notice a few gray and white flamingos down there on that suspiciously mouse-shaped island. And those are the baby greater flamingos. While those babies may not be as small as they once were, they still retain that same gray and white color which they will keep for about the first 1 to 2 years of their life, before earning their famous pink feathers. The flamingos get that famous pink color from the protein known as beta-carotene, which can be found in their favorite food, the brine shrimp. Unlike their friends the African elephants, the white rhinos do not have powerful trunks to fling mud and dirt up onto their bodies with. So instead, they will wallow around in large mud pits like we can see on that left-hand side there to coat themselves in a thick layer of mud that will not only help to protect their skin from the sun, but it will help to act as a natural bug repellent and cool them down. The white rhinos get quite a bit larger than their cousin the black rhino that we saw earlier, as the white rhinos get up to about 4,000 to 5,000 pounds in weight, and they get their name white rhino from the Afrikaans term "weit," which means wide. So if you're able to get a good look at that upper lip there, you'll notice it's quite wide and squared off, which is where they get their namesake from. Coming up to our left-hand side. Sometimes these animals are a little hard to spot, but it looks like all the way in the back there is a cheetah lying down. Try to get a better look at maybe another cheetah up here. It's a little closer. But those cheetahs are the fastest land animals in the world. They can reach speeds of around 60 miles an hour thanks to their unique physiology, such as having a much smaller skull in comparison to their bodies, making them more aerodynamic, and having semi-retractable claws, which means that as they run, they can choose to leave their claws out to give them a little bit more traction. Kind of like an athlete wearing cleats. There's a few more of those cheetahs, a little easier to see there. For any of my friends on board who are fans of Disney's The Lion King, this rock structure coming up here to our left-hand side may look a little familiar to you. While this is not Pride Rock, this is still the same type of rock structure known as a kopie. Lions like to use kopies to get a higher vantage point over the land when looking for prey, and for laying around on the hot rocks throughout the day as they take their cat naps, as it looks like that male is doing there on the left-hand side. The lions are pretty much professionals when it comes to napping, as they will rest an average of 16 to 20 hours every single day. Make sure we remain seated at all times, my friends. Even our lab sitters have to remain seated. However, when those lions are not resting, it'll be the male that stays home and does most of the child care and babysitting, while the female lionesses will be the ones to go out and do most of the hunting for the pride. To our right-hand side, looks like there were a few more white rhinos back there. A group of rhinos is known as a crash of rhinos. And then there are also a few ostriches here. The ostrich is the largest bird species in the world. And although they are flightless birds, they are still the fastest land animals in the world on 2 legs. We can tell those ostriches back there were female ostriches because they are much lighter in color. They have kind of a light gray to light brown color to their feathers, while the males will typically have jet black feathers with white tips to their wings. Now, a bit of a fun fact for you guys about that male lion that you just saw flop down there is that he's a bit of a celebrity here on the safari. That exact male lion that you just saw is the lion that the animators used as a reference model to create Simba in the most recent Lion King remake movie.
That's Simba.
Now over to the left-hand side, there are some warthogs laying all the way down in the back there. Those warthogs are the largest burrowing animals in all of Africa. They'll dig their burrows with their top tusks and their hooves, and then back down into them with their razor-sharp bottom tusks left exposed to ward off any unwanted visitors or predators. And while you may know the warthogs as Pumbaa from Disney's The Lion King, that name is a bit contradictory as it does mean foolish in Swahili, and the warthogs are pretty intelligent creatures. From time to time, they will even borrow the burrows of other animals, helping them to cut down on the time, energy, and effort it may take to dig their own burrows. Off to our right-hand side, once again, there are some ostrich eggs down there in that nest. Those ostrich eggs are the largest bird eggs in the world. They weigh around 3 pounds each, which is roughly the same as 24 regular chicken eggs you'd find at the grocery store. And their shells are so tough that a full-grown human can stand on one single egg, put all of their weight down on it, and still not crack that shell. As we enter the final area of the reserve, I'd like to welcome you to Mopti Glen, the home of the Nigerian dwarf goats. So while these guys may look small and cute, keep in mind they are fully grown. That's just where they get the name dwarf from. Goats are typically known for being quite playful creatures, but it's not all just kidding around with them. Whenever the goats are playing, it is a maturing exercise that allows them to establish dominance within their groups. And if you notice these guys have a bit of a pot belly on them, that's because they're what's known as a ruminant, which means they have 4 chambers in their stomachs to help them digest their food a little bit easier. Unfortunately, my friends, with the Nigerian dwarf goats now behind us, that does mean our safari here today is going to be coming to a close. But don't worry, if you're still hungry for more facts on all of your favorite animals and ways that you can help out with conservation efforts, there's still plenty of ways to expand your knowledge from home. Whether that's reading a book on your favorite animals, doing a few Google searches, or streaming one of the many documentaries over on Disney+. I encourage you to go out, take your favorite facts that you learned here today, combine them with your favorite facts that you learn on your own, and share them with your friends, your family, and your loved ones. Impress them with your newfound animal knowledge and get them excited about conservation as well.
All right, we here. We wrapping up the safari at Animal Kingdom. You already know what to do. You know who you with. It's me. Explore with me. You at Animal Kingdom, you gotta go on the safari. Very informative. We saw all kinds of animals. All kinds of animals. Had a great time. We loved it. Love
By
it.
recycling our old
And you know what you
electronics,
do?
we can reuse the coltan
2
we've already
thumbs up.
mined, cutting down on the need for more
Stamp of
coltan and
approval.
coltan
Bang.
mining, and preserving
Explore
the
with me.
homes of all
Yeah.
of our animal friends.